Welcome to another episode of the Coach Turf podcast. I'm Coach Daniel Northeast. That's Daniel Northeast for short. And in this episode, we're going to be talking again with Colin Reid. Hello, Colin.
Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Having a good day so far. How about you?
Yeah, as you know, obviously I'm out in the garden. It's a little bit windier. The temperatures are nice and warm. I've got washing blowing everywhere, and the flag behind me will be continuing to blow. But it's a nice breeze, and looking forward, obviously, to England's game tomorrow evening.
Definitely, absolutely. So before we talk about England's actually last game, previous game that they played was against the Congo. Perhaps we could just mention a few of the other games that happened since our last recording.
Yeah, I think we covered half of the last 32 games. So just to go through them and looking at Spain, obviously we'll talk about England and Congo, the victory at the end. But like I say, Spain beat Austria comfortably 3-0. And for me, again, they look the most organised team. Definitely the most well-coached team, without a shadow of a doubt. And then you've got the United States of America beating Bosnia 2-0, which again is another great result for the host nation, one of the host nations, which I predicted, and you predicted the other way round. So I'm going to get that one in now. Then obviously the Portugal-Croatia game, and I know that you was again. I'm digging you out now because you was a big advocate of Croatia, and I predicted Portugal. So Portugal went on to win 2-1, and I know you want to speak about that game in more detail a little bit later. Then Belgium beating Senegal after extra time. So for me, that was a crazy game. Senegal being 2-0 up and playing absolutely fantastic, and just sort of taking Belgium apart. But in the 85th minute, there was a goal scored, and then obviously Belgium equalised before the end. It then went into extra time, and then Belgium eventually winning it 3-2. Moving on to Australia and Egypt. So I tipped Australia there, but Egypt drew 1-1. And it obviously went to extra time and penalties. And then Egypt secured that with a 4-2 victory, which is great result for Egypt. And Australia, to be fair, that game was pretty even and that was decent to see. And then we had Switzerland beating Algeria 2-0. So another European team going through. And I'll talk about the demographics of where the teams that are qualified for the last 16 have come from. And then Colombia beating Ghana, which was no surprise, but the fact that, Colombia have sort of secured another 1-0 victory, but haven't conceded a goal. So for me, some fantastic results there, which obviously we'll talk about who they go on to play a little bit later. But coming back to England, beating Congo 2-1, I said we've gone through and that was the most important thing, but I'm going to be totally honest. England were very, very disappointing once again. So for me, there's major concerns. Yes, we've got a result. Yes, we're still papering over the cracks. And, then we've got to play Mexico in Mexico City at altitude. So lots to talk about. I don't know what you want to discuss now. Anything that you want to add regarding those results we've just spoke about?
Because you've spoken quite a lot about Spain. I'm impressed with them as well. I think there's a bit of a different type of being impressed with them when it comes to me when I watch them, because they it's not like this for me. It's not the when I watch them, I don't get this like wow factor from them. But what I do get is that I get a team that are extremely well coached, as you said, and Cucurella he could be in the team of the tournament. He's been absolutely phenomenal. And they've got players who do their job, and that's
Yeah.
what you need. That you don't need any flicks and tricks and all that all the time. Just sometimes you just need to do the basics, and they do the basics extremely well. So yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I want to say that there needs to be a special mention for. I know you want to talk about also the I think Argentina Cape Verde game, but yeah, for me, Cape Verde have been one of the teams of the tournaments. They're unbelievable the way they approach their games, and they put in a real effort against Argentina. Before the tournament started, some people could have looked at that and said if they have to play each other, then we probably see a 5-7-8-0, something like that. It was far from it. Cape Verde, they put in such an effort. Top goalkeeper as well, and such a joy, just such a joy from such a nation to play football that way. And it just, they're not the biggest of nations, are they? They're very, you could say land, meter wise, and they're not big at all. They're islands, but unbelievable people, unbelievable team, just such a joy, just such a positivity, and they might go down as the joy of the tournament once it's all over. And well done to them for what they've accomplished. It's a real success, and coming so close against Argentina for it just to be one goal, forcing that team or that Argentinian team into extra time. You know, unbelievable. Well done to them.
Yeah, I think, like I say, I didn't mention that game. I've left that one for you to just talk about that initially. But to win 3-2, I stayed up and watched most of it, and I was very tired, so I ended up missing the last 10 minutes. And I'm thinking, am I going to wake up to a shock result? When I woke up and I've just watched the goals to see, Argentina obviously winning 3-2 with an own goal at the end, scored by Cape Verde. So most people know Cape Verde as a holiday resort, and apparently it's a fantastic place to go to. But like I say, they've come out from this World Cup with so much credit, and their goal to equalise, to take it to 2-2, was considered one of the goals of the tournament. And the guys just whips it in at the far post and beat Martinez there. What an absolute worldie of a goal. But like I said, they get knocked out. They wasn't expected to win, but fantastic. So yeah, they've done credit to themselves, and I'm sure that there'll be players that I don't know where they play. If I'm totally honest, what clubs they represent and what countries they play in, but I'm sure there'll be a few clubs that will show interest in them, and that's what I said. The World Cup does that; it enables people to get on that world stage, and it will allow people to move on and play, maybe get transfers to bigger clubs in bigger leagues. And we might even see a few more playing here. Who knows? So only time will tell.
That would be amazing. I mean, just to see some of those players from Cape Verde playing at some teams that we recognise. Some players will find their way to the Premier League one day or La Liga. Who knows? It would be amazing if this could be that kind of springboard for those people, for those players. You also mentioned that, yeah, I made this kind of prediction that maybe Bosnia were going to beat USA, but now watching that, even USA after getting a goal, I think they got one of the players, Balogun, I think it was, got sent off for USA, and even at that point, Bosnia didn't really create much. So in the end, it wasn't much of a surprise that USA won it. But saying that, I did, also, looking at Belgium, Senegal. That's why you have to play to the end. That's why you can't, especially at a tournament like this. Belgium are still a team with talent, with capabilities. You can't switch off. You can't become complacent. I know you're getting close to winning the game. You're 2-0 up, but once you concede one, you can concede another, and that's what happened. And unfortunately for Senegal, they conceded another one in extra time. We're not going to talk about it in this video, maybe, but yeah, I mean, I expect I expect USA to have a tougher test against Belgium in the next game.
Yep.
But yeah, but there was one game that I definitely wanted to mention before we move on to the England game. It's one that I did predict as well. That I thought maybe Croatia would beat Portugal, and this was so close to being that. Croatia was so good. They were. And I know so good doesn't win you games. You still have to take your chances. You have to get them, right. And a couple of goals were, in my book, rightfully chalked off. They were offside for Croatia. But then that moment right at the end, the one that the whole world's probably talking about. I think this is something that we could talk about in a separate video dedicated to this. Yet again, a bit of technology seen maybe as helping situation. I'm not convinced. I don't think it is, because I don't think it's been used properly. I don't think we've been given the full information from a little bit of a graphic to say that that's where this has happened.
Yeah,
It's not there. And as I said, I think another episode would be good so that we could just concentrate on that, because I've got my thoughts around that. Since then I've been livid. Honestly, I've been livid. I feel very bad about this. And we don't know what would have happened if that goal had been given. It would have probably gone to extra time. We don't know what would have happened there. Portugal might have still got a goal in extra time. They might have still gone through. But from what I saw, if Portugal don't improve, then they don't stand any chance against Spain in my book. I still think it should be Croatia through, and I
yeah,
think that's what I think. Of course, it's just thinking. It's, there's no proof behind it, of course, but it's just a shame because Croatia at times looked, there was scintillating stuff. It was scintillating stuff. It was unbelievable stuff. It was some of the best football I've ever watched when I watched that Croatia team. And I mentioned in the last video that a game against Ghana, they impressed me with their professionalism, with the way they approached the game. They were getting better. The game against England, they were just getting started. They lost, of course, to England, but the later games they were getting better and better and better. I just feel so sorry for them that it happened in this way, that it happened with this kind of decision in this circumstance, and that people just brought this up now, that it wasn't introduced in the beginning. It should have been shown at the beginning to everyone. Maybe some
yeah,
people knew about this snicker meter stuff. I don't. People in cricket, I think, are familiar with it, but I don't know if it's right that they're using it in the same way. I think for football it should be tweaked. I think there should be more information around it. The graphics should be full. We should be given more touches shown, not just the so-called one person.
yeah,
It was wrong. It's the For me, that will probably go down as the worst moment of the World Cup. Whereas Cape Verde, on the other hand, will become the success possibly of the World Cup. So I think
yeah.
we've
I
got
think
this round.
so. Yeah, I said I think there's been a dodgy couple of decisions. There's been some consistency in the inconsistency of the goals, and like I said, um, there's always something that can be improved at World Cups. And like I said, that technology needs to be used. And like you said, we need to be informed of how that indeed works and how it's going to work throughout the tournament. But moving on, um, are we going to talk about England and our sort of, let's say, lucky, our escape again? Obviously
Yeah,
through
yeah,
Harry Kane's 2 goals. So yeah, I think if we look at England and their 2-1 um, result against Congo, I think first and foremost I was looking at the team selection. I don't think there was too many surprises, um, you know. But saying that, we went with O'Reilly, Gay, Konza, and Spence, and that was what we selected. Sort of said that right back will come in there, and then Anderson, Rice, and Bellingham, those three in midfield, and then Rashford started. Madiaki started, which was a bit of a surprise for me because I thought it'd be Saka and then Kane up top. But again, we got off to a very, very slow start, conceded a very poor goal, in my opinion, which I think Pickford will be really disappointed. I've put something on social media and people have jumped at me. And listen, there's no excuses. The two centre halves sort of overcovered. Spence in his right back area sort of had to go across. They had a great diagonal ball. And for me, as the ball travels, Spence is very, very quick physically, but I think he could have got out there a little bit quicker as the ball's travelling and he realised it's going over his head. And but when he's got out there, the guy was right-footed coming in from a wide area on the left. And for me, the only one place it can go is the near post. It's not one of those where he can whip it and cut inside Spence and whip it into the far post with his right foot. All his option was just to drive the ball. And for Pickford getting beat so, comprehensively at that near post, he got a hand to it, but yeah, disappointing. But saying that, it didn't look like we was going to get going. Again, we was disjointed. We didn't dominate. Our lack of ability to keep the ball and play with any fluidity again was, questioned, and really very disappointing. And I even sort of looked at it and thought we're going to need another bit of magic. And I think it was when it was changed. And for me, again, we morphed between this 4-2-3-1 and 4-3-3. But if you look at the first goal, and it was delivered from the left, but the play initially started down the right. And it was when um, Declan Rice had been put into right back. And I'm going to take a little bit of credit for that, because I did say to you that, there were people talking about Rice starting at right back. Now, obviously, he's gone in there, fitted in and done well. And I don't know if you remember the first goal with detail. It was played out, as I remember, from Konza out to the right wing at Madiaki, who was on. So on that right side, you had Rice. Oh, no, sorry, you had Rice, Saka, and Eze had come on by then. And the ball was fizzed out wide. And then Eze made a forward run. It was rolled into him from Saka, and then Rice had even run behind him, and then he clipped one over to the far post. But that play was fluid. Having three players in that wide area allowed us to combine and get the ball in, like Spain do on so many occasions, whereas generally we have two players out there, and sometimes we wasn't even having two. Spence wasn't getting forward, and it almost seemed that when whoever was playing wide turned out, they was reluctant to give it to Spence to deliver for whatever known reason. So again, those three Arsenal players combined nicely in that sort of right wing, inside right channel, got in that half space, clipped one to the far post, and then again the pot was kept boiling, and I think it was delivered, and that's when Kane scored his header. So for me, that was fantastic play. So got us back in it, and then the rest is history when Kane scored that brilliant goal. Undeniably one of the best of the tournament, where he's run it across and he's come across, made another yard, and then he's got his shot in and he's finished, with great power, and not really, any doubt after then that we'd go on to win it. But I think, again, very disappointed in the performance, and we're only having snippets of where we seem to play well. So, that's definitely going to need to change, because there's no way we will get away with that against Mexico in Mexico City, playing at altitude to a team that haven't yet conceded a goal. So for me, we've got to be at the races, and I know we've gone out there a day earlier to try and acclimatise, because it was said that we don't think we'd be able to acclimatise and we just go out there and play. But obviously, being out there a day earlier, I think it is going to help. But let's just be honest: if that performance is repeated and we don't get off to a good start, then we're going to be in all sorts of trouble. Of course, I strongly believe we can win it, and pound for pound, our players are better than the Mexicans. But I think in terms of the hostility, where it is, in terms of, being in Mexico City, the crowd are going to be up for it. In terms of, like we said, playing at altitude is going to be very difficult. So let's wait and see. Not going to put all my eggs in basket. But like I said, I just want to see England perform better. And if we perform better and got beat, so be it. But like I said, it's so important that we go out and get a good start. That first 15 minutes, to me, is one where we've got to put a marker down. So I don't know what your thoughts on it. Maybe we'll talk about selection in a minute. But what was your thoughts on the performance against Congo, and what do you see happening?
Yeah, I agree with a lot that you just said there. Very, very poor with the manner of, which we conceded that goal. I've it should have been saved, yes. But then again, to be honest though, I don't really put a lot of blame on Jed Spence, because I think he wasn't helped. Because there were some players upfield doing that move. I intentionally paused that frame, and I was noticing one or two players from England just somewhere else, where at least one was even, sometimes you have to fill those gaps, even if it's not your position, you have to be there, you know,
Yeah.
and it's not like someone was tired because it was like the 6th minute, you
Mm.
know, and it's not like as you said, like next game's going to be at altitude. It's not that. So I mean, for me that was a very poor goal to concede so early on, and they took their chance. So well done to them. Um, but I think, I mean, I know we can be a lot, I know we can be critical of England. We can. There were a lot of things that should have been different. A lot of moments where, there was one moment where it was the first half. Rashford had a great opportunity where I was just looking at that shot. I kept rewinding it. I was thinking, that is such a lazy shot.
Yeah. That's the one
Honestly,
where he got in behind, didn't he? And he struck it with his
there
left
was
foot and he missed at the near post. And anybody can tell you, you've got to at least hit the target. And if you don't hit the target, the worst place to miss is at the near post because you've got no opportunities of getting rebounds or getting anything from it. Whereas at least if you pull it with your left foot, it might go into an area where people's coming in at that far post area or even an essential area to get something. And like I say, if you hit the target, nothing gets said. If it hits the target and it gets parried out by the keeper, you've got a chance of rebound. So for me, Rashford, again, he's had his moments at the World Cup, but the inconsistency, he was very poor. And like I said, what was the um, catalyst for me was the change where Gordon went on. And whereas Gordon had struggled in the previous game and Rashford done well when he come on, it was, where Gordon come on and you instantly see a change in terms of the dynamics of the game. So it is good that we've got them wide players in Rashford and Gordon, Madiaki and Saka, and it's going to be interesting to see what he goes with to start. But it seems that those that start are not able to finish it, and those that come on, that's why they're called finishers, are able to go on there and make a difference. But I think we've got to just say again how outstanding Harry Kane was, and Bellingham done well again. But I'm looking at it and I'm going, look, there needs to be a lot more done. We still look a bit shaky at the back, and I think we'll get punished against better sides if we go on and we beat Mexico and we play Brazil. But let's not jump the gun. First and foremost, we've actually got to beat Mexico, and I don't think that's no easy game whatsoever. But let's hope that we find some form and everything clicks and falls into place and that we get off to a good start and we take it from there.
Yeah, hopefully that's going to be the case, in the next game. But to be honest, there was actually another moment that I was talking about. But that was one that I can remember. Yeah, you're right about that. But the one that I was talking about, it was a ball from the right. It came towards the left side in the penalty area. Kane was there, but it came to Rashford.
Yep,
Rashford had made a late run or jog into the box. And the thing that I was hoping to see in a moment like that was a little bit of more urgency from him and to
yep,
actually head over the ball and kick it with his laces. He didn't do that. He had the goalkeeper there, and I think Wan-Bissaka was there as well, if I remember correctly. And I was just thinking to myself, that is such a lazy shot. I
yep,
would have actually preferred it if he had gone with the laces and had gone over than that, because that just shows me laziness, casualness. In a moment like
yep,
that, you're trading. It's a World Cup game, you know. It, it's just not good. And as you said, once Gordon came on, it looked better. So
definitely.
that's the thing, though. That's the thing, though. And this is what This is why we don't. It's not a good thing that we don't know who's going to perform well. We don't know
Yep,
whether it should be Rashford or Gordon. We should know that. We should know that either one of them is the definite number one there. We don't know. We're going to have days when Rashford's going to look better than Gordon and others the other way round. We can't have these guessing games. It's good that we've got, as you said, we've got Kane. Great. He's getting goals. Bellingham's looking good. They're pretty solid in this tournament. But what if they can't? What if they won't be able to play? Who's going to go in there? We've got a
Yeah,
problem. We've got a problem. We're not France. We're not Spain, and we're not Argentina.
no,
And
definitely not.
so and the next game against Mexico is going to be a real, real test.
Without a shadow of a doubt, like I say. But looking at the side, that's the dilemma we've got now because we haven't got. I don't think he fancies Spence now. I think in his mind he's sort of saying, can I trust him? There's been one or two altercations from the touchline towards him in terms of ask him to do. And this, let's be fair, primarily he's a left back, and people have said, well, it's a completely different plan on the other side. It is to a certain degree, but you'd expect somebody, um, with his athleticism to get higher up the pitch. Whilst he's not the best going beyond the winger, he needs to at least be higher up and backing him up. So there was talk of putting Rice in there, but like I said, I've gone with that one. I've mentioned it previously that maybe he will bring on Stones as a centre half, and he will release Konza as a right back because Esri's played there and can get up the pitch and can get up and down, and he is able to give us that option to bomb beyond whether it's Madiaki or Saka to start with, but at least he'll be up there to back him up. And obviously, if that is the case, I don't want to see Rice playing in there. I want to see Rice playing in centre midfield with Anderson and Bellingham again. I can't see Rodgers getting a look in. Like I said, he's been very disappointing. Never got a nod the other night, and it's just O'Reilly at left back is a gimme, and then who he goes with at left back. So hopefully, whatever 11 that he picks to start, that they go out and impose themselves early in the game, and we play on the front foot. I think the quote was from the assistant coach Barry. That we seem to free ourselves up after the break, and they let the handbrake off. And what other people said is, why was the handbrake on initially? We've got to go out there, not go gun ho, certainly not go gun ho, but you have to go out there with a little bit more confidence and our lack of ability to keep the ball and dominate possession as you would expected. But when we had the ball, we gave it away too cheaply. So for me, against Mexico, you do not want to be giving the ball away cheaply and having to counter the counter attack and run back to your own goal. And again, if we can get on the ball early and dictate and dominate it, I think it's imperative within that heat because, like I say, we do not want to be chasing back or get high up the pitch and having to run 70, 80 metres back and wearing ourselves out. So we've got to take care in possession. For that, we need our best players on the ball, and we've got to play a more patient game, knowing full well that the conditions are going to make and have a big part of the outcome in terms of the result, particularly as the game goes on. But what are your thoughts on who we should put at right back to start with?
That's a tough one, and because it's one of those situations again that I know you can't dwell on it now because it's too late. But in a way, it's a shame they didn't take Trent.
Yeah.
But because he's not there, who do you put down there on the right? Do you go with Jed Spence again? Do you know what? I might actually go with Jed Spence. I know. But thing is, it's got me thinking about something that I heard. I think it was a person ringing in to Talksport. He suggested that maybe it's a good idea to start Rice, Bellingham, and Kane on the bench
I
because of
heard that. I heard that. Listen, I've got to come in there because that is absolutely, in my eyes, it's crazy. Absolutely madness to suggest that you leave them three off and then you bring him on after 60 minutes, as the guy said. And I'm like, no, 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 no. No, you can't expect um, Mainu. They haven't had any game. They haven't had any time in the World Cup. And it takes time not only to acclimatise to playing, in terms of acclimatising to playing at, altitude is for me. But sorry to cut across you there, but I couldn't have that. You can't, put in because he can't take that risk. You cannot put in Henderson, Mainu, because that's who you're suggesting, and even Rodgers, because for me, without being disrespectful to Henderson, his days are gone. He's there almost as a cheerleader for me. And Rodgers, well, like I said, I'm not a lover of Rodgers. I hope if he does get an opportunity to go on and prove me wrong, I'll be the first one to say, I'll put my hands up. But I haven't seen anything from him to suggest that he should be starting or commanding a place, even to go on as a substitute, if I'm totally honest. But yeah, go on. Sorry, what were your thoughts on that?
I actually thought that was quite an interesting thought, and in a way, I understand it. But now thinking about it, it wouldn't make sense to start Spence because Tuchel's always said that Spence has got this motor in him. I'd actually get him on as a sub. I'd bring him on as a sub towards the end of the game. So I do like what you've said about maybe starting Stones and having, I think you said Konsa on the right, if you could do that, and then having Jed Spence come on for Stones.
Yeah.
Then Konsa can naturally shift to centre, and having Jed Spence. It's a way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of understand where that other person's coming from, but I agree with you. I think you've got to have your best players on the pitch from the get-go. I really do. So I think you've got to start with Kane. You've got to start with Bellingham. You've got to start with Rice. And then whoever you start, whether it's Rashford, whether it's Gordon, whether it's Madueke or Saka, whoever.
Yeah.
That's who you go with.
Yeah, I think it's imperative that we control the game from the start, the tempo of the game. It's played at our pace, and to be fair, Spence's distribution is not the best. Whereas you could go Stones in there, and if you need to push him inside into midfield, because we get higher up the pitch, and then he's playing alongside Anderson in there, that's great. That's another option. And it also, like I said, whether you play him as a centre half or right back, I don't know, but if he goes in at centre half and out centre half, he can boss. His distribution is good. He can come out from the back with the ball, and I think you're going to need Konsa to get up and down. And when it goes into them higher areas, whether it's into Madiaki or Saka, that you've got someone backing him up that he can turn out to. And if we do lose possession high up, we are then able to try and regain possession higher up. And I think that Konsa will give you that option on that side of the pitch. So let's wait and see. And, only time will tell. So looking forward very much to that. Anything else you want to add around the next rounds or not?
Just quickly, because we're nearing the end of the episode now, and just say that as for some predictions, I'm going to go with a 2-1 win to England. Hopefully. I think as far as who's going to go through, going to have to think about this off the top of my head. Who's through now? Just some of them. Do you have them written down? Sorry, do you have the
match? Yeah. Well, listen, I think England. I want England to win. It's going to be an odd goal. I think it's going to be an odd goal either way. So let's hope it's England, and I'll go for 2-1. But you've got Canada and Morocco tonight, so I'm going to go for Morocco. What are you going for?
I'm going Canada.
Right, okay, that's interesting, because I think Morocco are the best African side they've got. Then Paraguay, France tonight. I'm going for France.
France.
What you going? Good. Then you got Brazil or Norway. I'm going for Brazil.
Norway.
Right, England, Mexico, which we've said. Spain and Portugal, another good game. I'm going for Spain.
Spain.
Argentina, Egypt. I think I've got to go Argentina with a more convincing display.
Argentina.
Switzerland and Colombia. I'm going for Colombia.
I'm going Switzerland.
And then interesting. And then I'm going USA, Belgium. I'm going to go USA because of the momentum and the fan base. So that's what I'm going for. What do you reckon on that last one?
I'm going Belgium because I think USA are going to lack the fact that they don't have that the player Balogun. He was sent off against Bosnia, and I think they're going to miss him. So that's why. Okay, well, that's it for today. Thank you very much, Colin, for this episode. Hope everyone has enjoyed it. Feel free to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Notification bell to stay up to date with everything that's connected to this channel. And we hope to come back with more videos very soon. All the very best. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.